Good afternoon, everybody. We appreciate you joining us for our live stream in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. We're right here in the beautiful studios, brand new studios, brand spanking new building. We're just breaking it in. Everything's good. I hope everything's going well for you as well. Had an opportunity here recently, as every offseason, to go down to organized team activities, quite a few of those, and then the mandatory minicamp that the team just completed. So we're going to talk about those, talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. Any questions that you folks might have, it's driven by you. The live stream is all yours. It's driven by the fantastic supporters of In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, and that is you guys. So we're looking forward to tremendous participation. It was very productive, I felt like, during the OTAs and the mini camp. It's always interesting to see, particularly when the draft is done and the drafted players and the college free agents start to mesh and mix and meld with the veteran players. That's always an interesting dynamic. You got the young guys trying to unlearn terminology and relearn new terminology. That's an interesting factor. And then to watch the veteran players kind of supporting the younger players with the new techniques that they're trying to learn. Some of the veteran guys that have been around a while are almost like assistant coaches to the assistant coaches of those position groups. That's always an interesting thing. And the more that takes place, I think it's an indicator of how many leaders there are on the football team and how close the football team is, because guys are like, you know what? It's not about me. It's about us. You know, I want to help everybody get better, including myself. I want to get better, and I want to try to help everybody else get better. And that's how you move the needle. That's how the team improves as a whole. So with that said, they were off now. They got their break. They got their time to themselves and stay in shape and get ready for July 24th when it all starts for real. Training camp pads in a couple of weeks, you know, unpadded practices initially, but they throw the shoulder pads and helmets on. Then the rubber meets the road, Dave.
You know, it's hard to believe we're almost July.
I know it. It's crazy.
Before we know it, it'll be training camp and a new season. A lot of excitement. I mean, what was your biggest takeaway from minicamp?
You know, I thought that they drafted and even signed from a college free agent standpoint everybody that they brought into the fray and brought into the fold has a specific role in mind, or they have a specific role in mind for them. Not to say that role can't expand, but, you know, they needs that they had with DJ Reader, you know, moving on, with Tyler Boyd moving on. They were very, very intentional in filling those needs in the draft and free agency or free agency. So I felt like they did a good job of that, and everybody that was out there running around doing their thing looked like they're going to be contributors. I mean, it, as always, and it is the National Football League. It's the highest level, so you're taking the cream of the college ranks, and everybody should belong. And from what I saw, naked eye, again, running around underwear ball as such, without any pads or helmets, or I guess helmets in minicamp for a couple of days. They all belong. There's no question about it. These guys, they were drafted and signed as a free agent for a reason, whether it's veteran free agency or college free agency. They all belong. And it's just a question of making decisions now as the team. It's always fascinating to watch the process, the ebb and flow. It's like the tide. You know, the tide goes out and it always comes in. Well, players always move on. You're always going to have players move on, particularly now in the era of free agency. And guys will move on, and free agency and salary cap. Sometimes it's player driven, sometimes it's organizationally driven, sometimes it's both. You know, you just can't afford everybody from a salary cap standpoint. So you move on, and then you make some adjustments in free agency yourself. When you lose your veteran free agents, you get somebody else's veteran free agents, and then comes the draft process. It's very, very interesting every year to see that tide of the roster reconstruction or construction. Guys go, guys come on board, and you're hoping that you put your bat on the ball and you put together the best roster you possibly can. Because one thing we know in the National Football League, attrition is real. Attrition at every position group can be a problem. So the deeper that your roster is, the better off you are. And that's one thing in the AFC North that's, I think, a very, very big factor is not only are these teams talented, but they're deep. Everybody has roster depth, and that's why Hard Knocks is all over the AFC North. I mean, Hard Knocks is basically doing their thing with the AFC North the month of December and into the playoffs. The AFC North was the first division since 1935 in the National Football League, 88 years, where every member of the division had a winning record. I mean, first one in modern football, that's for sure. But I mean, you got to go back to 1935 to have every team in your division with a winning record. That speaks volumes. And Hard Knocks is all about showing the entire world what the AFC North looks like and how competitive it is and how physical it is and how much talent there is. And that's where when December rolls around and you're trying to make the playoffs, you're trying to qualify for the playoffs, and then to get into the playoffs and advance in the playoffs, that's where roster depth becomes a big reality, because attrition can rear its ugly head down the stretch of the season, because it is a long grind. There's no question about that.
Dave, one of our regulars, Yash, over in England, is joining us, but he says it's only going to be a short time because there's England, I'm guessing it's a soccer game, that other thing they call football.
Yeah. Right.
But also, Yash has something in common with you, Lap. So he's turning 26 years old on July 6th, but he said, my Celtics won a championship too. There's your in common one. Your birthday's coming up in a few days.
Yeah.
And your Celtics won a championship.
And your birthday's today, Dave. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
And many more to come. Yeah, I've got mine in 4 days, the 24th. And yeah, it was an early birthday present from our entire family. I mean, we're all Celtics fans. We're originally from about 15 miles northeast of Boston. And my wife and I are from neighboring hometowns, and we grew up huge Celtics fans. I mean, from age 23 to 35, I shouldn't say that. I should say 13 to 25. From age 13 to age 25, the Celtics won 11 championships in 13 years with Bill Russell there. That's when I was like, I hit a teenager at 13 to my mid-20s in that stretch. They win 11 championships in 13 years. It was crazy, man. It really was. I mean, Boston Celtics were the kings. They were the kings of the Boston area. And so my wife and I obviously grew up loving the green. Let's go Celtics. And so now my kids appreciate the Celtics, and now grandkids. And boy, I've got a grandson that is just my man Casey, and Cam as well. The girls too, but Casey, Lucy and Gabby are Celtics fans, but my grandson Casey, he is into it, Dave. He's one of those kids that, he's on his iPad, he's on whatever he can to get stats. I mean, he can rattle off every single player's, height, weight, vertical jump, any stat you want. I mean, he's got it all down. He is a huge Celtics fan, so it was big when the Celtics got that world championship. Number 18, they broke the tie with the team out west, the Lakers. Celtics fans don't like to say that word, but the LA Lakers had tied the Celtics with 17 world championships. Now the Celtics stand alone with 18.
All right. Oh, we lost the computer here for just a second. Got some questions coming in.
All right.
And let's go to Dan the Man. Lap, this month marks 10 years since Devin Still's daughter, Leah, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. By 2016, he said she was cancer-free. Do we know how they are doing?
That's a good question. I guess, as far as my understanding is, she's doing very well. And as the old saying goes, no news is good news from that front. But that was incredible. when her diagnosis and her battle was just there for the whole world to see. I mean, she's a brave young girl, no question about that. And yeah, that was an emotional tug of war for Devin Still, and for him to be able to separate things and still, you know, obviously his daughter was on his mind 100% of the time, but then to be able to muster up enough concentration and focus to do what he needed to do on the football field. He dedicated everything that he did in his life from that point forward, no matter it was football or anything else related, was dedicated to Leah. So, I mean, it was an unbelievable story. You know, a story that you think would be fictional. Oh no, this was real. This was nonfiction. This was real life stuff. It was incredible. And God bless her and the Still family.
DM says, Houday, Dave, do you think some of the undrafted free agents will have a place on special teams, especially with the new rules?
Yeah, you know, I think that's a good point. Anytime you are an undrafted free agent, Darren Simmons has said, all right, I'm going to put my thumb on this opportunity for you. I don't think you would be here with the Cincinnati Bengals as a college free agent if Darren Simmons did not give the thumbs up, did not give the okay. So in a lot of instances, Darren Simmons is expecting some performance from you out of special teams for sure. And just about every single, whether you're a running back, wide receiver, linebacker, tight end, you know, offensive lineman, you're going to be looked at, field goal, extra point team. I mean, everybody's going to have a role. Also signed a free agent, college free agent punter out of Texas Tech who can kick the ball to the next solar system. I mean, he's got an unbelievable leg. His leg is incredibly strong, Austin McNamara. So, yeah, I mean, just about every single person on special teams has an opportunity. And honestly, like you said, with the rule change on the kickoff team, it's crazy to watch them execute that. The kicker is still kicking from a significant number of yards away, but man, the cover and the wedge are right up on each other, and they can't start to cover until the ball hits the ground or it's caught, and it turns into more of a scrimmage play. I mean, it really does. So, you know, speed is going to be a requisite, but I think now maybe instead of having multiple safeties, corners, you might have linebackers, a few more linebackers in there. You may have tight ends. You may have bigger bodies that can hit and separate from blocks and make plays. So it's going to be interesting to see how the evolution of that takes place. And I'm sure Darren Simmons has been in the National Football League for more than 2 decades now as the Bengals special teams coach and coordinator, and now obviously assistant head coach as well. Highly regarded, highly respected. He's a guy that is going to be on the cutting edge of adjustments. You know, a rule change occurs, and it's basically trying to help the player safety. You know, instead of 100 miles an hour each way from bigger distances, it's all a lot closer. You know, the wedge is not as big a deal. Wedge busting and all the crazy collisions that go on there, and you know, they made it where you couldn't cut block in the wedge, and you can't cut block. You have to hit above the waist in all facets. All of these are special teams scenarios. You know, when you crack block, there's no more clipping. There's no clipping in the interior of the interior line of scrimmage. You can't clip guys on the backside of plays. All of these things are player safety driven, and so this is as well. It's going to be interesting to see the adjustments that Darren Simmons makes on both sides of things, on kickoff coverage and kickoff return. And ball placement is going to be very, very significant. Going to have a kicker that can hit spots, and the Bengals have one. Money Mac can do that. Looks like, I mean, I don't know how you get away with a single return guy. It looks like you're going to have 2 return guys because, you know, if it hits it in the field of play and goes in the end zone, you get a 5-yard advantage as a kickoff coverage team for achieving that. So you're going to have to cover the field a little bit more back there as returners. And one guy I don't think can cover the whole area back there. I mean, Money Mac will make you pay. I mean, he'll directional diagonal kick, and it'll be interesting. If it hits in the field of play and bounces in the end zone, it's a 5-yard advantage in the ball placement to start a drive for the kickoff coverage team. So we'll see how it all unfolds. But yeah, I mean, special teams, the adjustments in special teams, I'm sure it had an impact on every team. Not only who you signed in college free agents, but who you might have drafted, later in the rounds at the positions that we're talking about. Linebacker, tight end, bigger bodied safeties. These type of guys are going to be interesting in terms of kickoff coverage now.
We're going to tie two together here, Dave. So the first one, 619 Bengals fan, Houday, Mims should start. You got to start your 5 best O linemen. And then we're going to tie in a Dan the Man question with this one as well. Lap, are you optimistic that this will be the best O line Joe has had protecting him? And do we have the necessary depth, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the new Cincinnati skyline at offensive tackle, Orlando Brown, Trent Brown, the Brown brothers, and Mims, 6'8", 350 plus, all of them. If you're not 350 plus, you're not in the club. I mean, they're monstrous, and they got length, and they got strength, and they got, they're thick, they're broad, they're wide. Everywhere you can be big, these dudes are big, and they can move. It's not like they're stiffs. They can move slide their puppies, man. They can redirect inside. They can kick, slide, and widen the pocket. They can do things that they need to get done out there on the perimeter. And honestly, I don't think that they're ruling out Mims starting. If Mims wins the job, Mims will start. But they don't feel like they're pressured to start Mims no matter what. If Mims shows that he is absorbing everything and adjusting flawlessly from the college ranks to the National Football League, and he's got all the physical attributes to do that. I mean, there's no question. This guy is very, very blessed physically to play the position in the National Football League for a long time. He's a 3.6 GPA at Georgia. He's smart. He's got football IQ. He understands concepts. He's a quick study, according to Frank Pollock. So he's got a lot of things going for him. The other thing that has going for him is he's not pressured to be the guy right away necessarily. If he shows that he can handle it and that role is built for him, plug him right in there. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility, but it's not like they don't feel like it has to happen. And I think that's good for a rookie offensive lineman. But he's a skilled player. He's got a couple of guys that have been around for a long time. They've both won Super Bowls. They've both been to the Pro Bowl. That's a pretty good tandem mentoring a young guy like Amarius Mims. Amarius Mims is a guy that has those kind of goals in mind: winning a Super Bowl, a team goal, individual goal, playing in a Pro Bowl. These two guys that are with him in the top 3 offensive tackles that they're going to run out there on the football field. They've all done that. So been there, done that. Here's what you need to focus on. Here's what you need to avoid. He's in a very, very good spot.
All right. This one is going to play right into what's coming up soon, Dave. All right. Klaus is 7. It seems like Dax is going to get a real shot at the outside corner spot.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think he's that versatile, or are they still looking for his best fit? It's exciting to see what Lou has planned. And the reason I say what's coming up is because we just recently spoke to Lou,
yes,
and that'll be coming up, I believe, on Tuesday.
And as a matter of fact, we were just talking offensive line. Frank Pollock could be coming up on Thursday. So we've got catching up with the assistant coaches here as they take their time, their free time, and Lou is in Staten Island and Frank's in the mountains in Colorado, so the coaches are having lives with their friends and family for a little time frame here. But Dax Hill, he is lining up as a starting corner all through OTAs, all through minicamp. When the number one defense was out there, he was at cornerback, strictly, solely. Cam Taylor-Britt has worked his way into being the number one corner, number one cover guy at the corner position for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think rightfully earned. I mean, he's played exceptionally well. And man, does Cam Taylor-Britt have hands. He has got exceptionally soft hands. I mean, I'd say that his hands, if I have to have a guy that I would want to have in a pressure situation to recover an onside kick to win a football game in the Super Bowl, it'd be this guy. He has unbelievable hands. So Cam Taylor-Britt and Dax Hill are right now the number one corners. So Dax Hill, of course, has done a lot of other things. He's played safety. He's played both the safety positions. He's played slot corner. He's done a lot of things for Lou Anarumo. And it's not like he can't still do those things, but they want him to focus on playing the corner position, and they feel like he's got the athletic ability and the skill set to do it. I mean, he runs sub 4.3, like 4.26, 4.27, whatever he runs. It's crazy. He's got size. He can flip his hips, can change direction. You know, they feel like, he tackles well. He's a very sure tackler in space. They feel like he's got a lot of prerequisites that you have to be a very effective corner in the National Football League. So, it's now you look at the safety position, and you got three guys back there. Von Bell is back in town. Geno Stone, they signed from the Baltimore Ravens. And, of course, Jordan Battle is the third safety, the three safety package that Lou Anarumo uses and uses very effectively. I mean, I think Jordan Battle is also in a good spot. I think Jordan Battle has shown that he's a starting caliber National Football League safety. But, they'll all get snaps. And again, remember, attrition is real in the National Football League. You can never have enough good players at any position. Every and all positions need quality depth. And this roster has some quality depth to it. I mean, it's like the years that the Bengals have been really good and made a deep run into the playoffs and played in the Super Bowl, it's like there were, quote, starters, but there were other guys who were that's not that big a deal. We lose a starter. We don't want to have that happen. But if it does happen, we have another starting caliber player to plug right in there, plug and play. That's what you like to have as a coaching staff, as an organization, and as a football team.
Next up, David O'Show. Come on. There we go. Gatekeepers. I think we're going to see more of an air raid and a lot of motion and choice routes from our weapons this season. It should look a lot different than the past few seasons. Thoughts?
I think that's a possibility. What I also think is the Cincinnati Bengals, when they lost Joe Burrow, Jake Browning stepped up and played very, very good football. And the Cincinnati Bengals got a good running game going with their inside-outside zone, with their gap scheme, complement that running game with play-action pass. I don't see anything wrong with taking that thought, that scheme, and tweaking it and fine-tuning it and maybe building on it and having Joe Burrow run that. Joe Burrow is as good a play-action pass guy as any quarterback in the National Football League. Now you have to make a decision. You're going to do play-action pass out of the shotgun. How effective is that? Or you're going to put him under center and then turn his back to the coverage and have a good hard run fake. I think, though, Browning got under center quite a bit. And I'm wondering if, boy, that worked pretty darn well. Joe can do that. Maybe we not the same percentage as Jake Browning went under center, but maybe you do a little bit more under center with Joe Burrow and have that running game be establish itself as a viable weapon every single week, and then the passing game complementing that. Or there's nothing wrong with the passing game and the running game complementing the passing game. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's 6 of one, half dozen of another. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? What you want to be offensively at any level is balanced. You want to be able to do both. And I think that when they started to really get in a nice groove with Jake Browning at quarterback, they were able to do both against pretty good defensive football teams. And even the games they lost, they were right in those football games. I mean, they played well. And I think Joe Burrow can obviously take that concept, that schematic that they unfurled, and a little more salt, a little more pepper, seasoning here, a little something there. I would not be surprised to see some of those things from a conceptual standpoint be implemented, and the sky's the limit. I mean, the Bengals, they have no limitations offensively in terms of what they want to do. But you don't want to be like every week grabbing, just you want to have some sort of you want to have a game plan. You want to have an offensive system that you can pull things out of, but to make some adjustments on a week-to-week basis. But every offense that I was part of that was very successful had a core. We had plays that I don't give a damn what the defense did. I don't care if they put 12 men out there like they do in Canada. We were going to run these plays for a staple on a week-to-week basis. And then, you made adjustments based on what defenses were doing from a game plan standpoint, but you have to have something that when push comes to shove and it's crunch time that you can lean on. And the Cincinnati Bengals will definitely have that.
Jesse asks, will Hard Knocks change anything you and the Bengals beat writers do?
No, not a thing. Zero. I mean, they're just out there, they're out there doing the video. And it has no impact whatsoever. And it's going to be very interesting. I think there's a huge trust with the National Football League and Hard Knocks and the AFC North teams and Hard Knocks, because we're not talking about, training camp, and we're talking about crunch time. We're talking about in a division where all 4 teams were in the playoff hunt last year until the last game of the season, where the Bengals did bow out, basically. They one game out of the playoffs. That's stuff that is very, very important on a weekly basis as you're installing your game plan in the classrooms and taking it out in the football field and repping it. So you're get repetition physically breeds comfort level. Hard Knocks, be filming some of that stuff, obviously. The coaches and organizations have final said that they can say, look, I don't want that. I don't want that to go in there. So, I mean, Hard Knocks, the people aren't stupid there. They're not going to divulge any secrets, but you have to really scour everything, because you never know. I mean, might be filming something in the background on another field. Oh, geez, what is that? Oh, what's the secondary doing there? Oh, what's the living room I got cooking there in the back end? It's like you got to be careful. You have to scour that tape that Hard Knocks is going to be shooting, because you don't want anything to slip out. You don't want anything, that a surprise element or something that you were hoping that the opponent certainly wasn't anticipating. You don't want them to get a heads up on it. So that's the that's the only thing you have to think about, and make sure that anybody that's looking at the final stages of that tape, don't miss anything. Don't miss anything that's crucial or critical. And like I said, Hard Knocks understands and realizes, they have built up a trust and a relationship. Doing something like that would put a dagger in it, man. End it right away. So I think that they're looking at, boy, everybody was in the hunt in this division. We anticipate everybody. It's the only division, the odds makers. It's the only division in the National Football League that every single team has I think it's at least a 20% chance. It might even be as high as 25%. All 4 teams have that type of chance or better of making the playoffs. It's the only division in the National Football League to make that claim. A lot of other divisions, you have 2 teams on the bottom that, single digit, 9%, 3% to make the playoffs, 8%, 4% to make the playoffs. And in the AFC North, everybody's a minimum of 20% or better to make the playoffs. So it speaks to the balance of what's going on in this division. That's why Hard Knocks is drooling right now with the opportunity. I think they're going to get big numbers. I think people are going to be very interested in how the AFC North pans out, because there are very, very good football teams that play a good quality and good brand of football, and there are stars, man. There are stars at the quarterback position and elsewhere.
All 4 teams have great fan bases as well.
No doubt, no question. And the other thing is, when you look at it, the geography is so tight. It's almost like your high school rival. It's like the neighboring town you play on Thanksgiving. It's that big rival. I mean, Cleveland. I mean, you can drive to Cleveland. You can drive to Baltimore. You can drive everywhere. You don't even have to fly to the competitive cities in the AFC North, and I think that's a factor as well. It's tight from a geographical standpoint, and it is competitive.
John asked, any of the 2nd or 3rd year players that you think will make a big jump in performance this season? That's a big question, because 2nd and 3rd year, especially 3rd year guys, this is your future.
Yeah. Well, a guy that I'm looking to make a jump. I'll start with the offensive line. Volson is in that category. It's 3rd year for Cordell Volson, and he's had up and down moments, and he is a physically talented dude, and he's smart, and he doesn't make assignment errors. He's just has to realize. I mean, he's very aggressive by nature, and sometimes that aggression gets used against him by defensive linemen. If he can just make sure that don't overcommit. You don't have to do that. You don't have to deliver that first blow. You can be the counter. You can be the counter punch, and he's going to be an interesting watch. I think he's going to have a big year. You look, that guy up front is big. Defensively, there are a lot of veteran guys on the football team. I mean, there's Cam Taylor-Britt is still a young corner. I think still making a name for himself. He could stamp his name big time into the National Football League. We talked about safety Jordan Battle. It's like there's nothing right. Lou Anarumo, if anyone believes in this, Lou Anarumo believes in this. If Jordan Battle is giving him extraordinary snap after extraordinary snap, even though maybe some of these veteran players have a little bit more experience and have been in the heat of the battle a little bit more and made adjustments in that heat of the battle a little bit more. If he's showing he can do it and he's playing at a high level, these snaps, when you got 3 guys that can play 2 positions, that are 3 guys that you have to put out there at 2 positions, and a couple of them can play both of those positions. Now it's a competition, man, and competition breeds excellence of performance. So, he's in that kind of a scenario, as is Dax Hill on the back end. I mean, Dax Hill making the position change from safety to corner it's a big year for him. So I think those are some of the guys. I think, obviously on the back end, we get more than one. And I'm interested in seeing Yosivas. I think Yosivas is another guy offensively that this year could be a big year for Yosivas. I think he's totally comfortable with everything. He's really worked extremely hard in the offseason. He has gotten bigger and stronger, and he's always had speed. I mean, he's an intriguing guy to watch. Charlie Jones, are you going to make another step, Charlie Jones? I mean, you're doing a great job in the return game. What about, at that receiver position with Tyler Boyd, moving on? There's a lot of slot snaps to be had there. So, these aren't rookies, but these are guys that we're talking about into that second and third year. What are you going to do? What's going to happen? I'm very intrigued to see what Chase Brown does. Still a young running back. Zach Moss, he doesn't have a lot of years on him either. I mean, they've got Travion Williams as well. The running back room. They're all kind of in that category of who's capable of making a jump. All of them are. Who's the one that's going to make a jump? We'll see. See how the season unfolds. I mean, that's the thing. They've got players that have shown they can play, and it's not like they're tapped out. I mean, there's still room for development, room for growth. And Joe Burrow will tell you, I'm not done. I've got room to grow. Everybody has room to grow. And a lot of these guys are at a high level, but still have a little bit room to. Now they separated themselves from their floor. They're closing in their ceiling, but they haven't topped out. They're not done. Some of these guys are about half, here's the floor of their career. They're maybe halfway there. So it's going to be interesting to see who does develop, who does step up, who does the light come on in a different way. And they start performing, and the coaches are like, we got to do more with this guy. Man, look at all this guy. We got to do more with him. He's earned the opportunity to have his role expanded. You're having a really good year when coaches are in the meeting room talking about how are we going to get this guy incorporated into our offense. Man, I mean, look what he can do. How are we going to do it? Who are we going to take snaps from? Everybody deserves snaps. That's a great problem to have, man.
Dave, we have to remind everybody, if you've not subscribed to In the Trenches or the First Star Logistics Media channel, please do so. Also, hit the like button. That helps us with the algorithms of YouTube to get more people seeing what we're doing. And we have to give a shout out, as always, to First Star Logistics for providing us with great equipment. And this studio, Dave, it's unbelievable.
Top shelf. It is. Really is. I mean, they let us do our job. They make it easy for us to do our job. And anytime you're in that position, in that situation, you're eternally grateful, man.
One of our favorites, Dolores, she says, glad we got Karras for another year.
Yes, I agree. Extension for Ted Karras, who is a natural born leader. I mean, the guy is a leader of men. There's no question about it. And he's a solid, sound, scrappy football player, man. I mean, he's going to give you everything he's got every single snap. And that's part of his leadership. He empties the tank every single snap, both physically and mentally. He's not, I got to save something for the second half. I got to save something for the fourth quarter. Ted's putting it out there, man. It's a battle. He is going to fight you. He is going to battle you from snap to whistle, every single play, as hard as he possibly can. Incredibly intelligent, gets everybody doing what they're supposed to do schematically, assignment-wise. Not just him, but the entire offensive line. He's one of those guys that could diagram everybody's assignments every single play. Not only the offensive line, but skill position players probably as well. I could definitely envision him being an outstanding coach if he decides to go that route when he finishes playing. But a wise move to get Ted Karras signed for an additional year. And again, a guy that has played in the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl. You have 4 offensive linemen, 4 of the 5 offensive linemen that projected starters, Super Bowl winners, not just gone to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl. Every single one of them. Talked about it a few times. Orlando Brown, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, Trent Brown, if he is the starting right tackle. All of them. Not just gone to the Super Bowl, won that bad boy. I don't think, 2 things. I don't think you're going to find another offensive line in the NFL that can make that claim. And I don't think you're going to find another offensive line in the NFL that can make the claim of how big these guys are. I mean, It's a big group, and they've played quality football and winning football. Excited about what might happen up front.
A couple of people here commenting about Chris Jenkins. Natty Ron, Dave, I believe Chris Jenkins is going to be real good. He fits AFC North style football.
I agree. I think Chris Jenkins is. I think there's a lot more that Chris Jenkins can show, and I'm not saying that Michigan, put him in a box, but I think schematically, he was asked to do very little. I think when you say, okay, here's what he was asked to do on a snap-by-snap basis, here's his physical attributes. Wow, he could have done a heck of a lot more. He could have freelanced, and he didn't. So I respect that about him. This guy has got unbelievable physical abilities, strength, power, short space quickness. You name it. He's got length. He's got some long arms on him. I mean, he's prototypical. And at Michigan, two gap. Very rarely were you one gap in the edge or taking a shoulder or whatever. A lot of it was two gap and very, very sound, very, very fundamental, very, very technique oriented, and that's good. I mean, he is a guy that is, from a technique standpoint, you watch tape of Jenkins, man, that's how it's supposed to be done. So now, open up the arsenal. I mean, he's got physical attributes that, man, you can put more bullets in the chamber. You can line him up a few different places, a few different ways, ask him to do a few different things. I think he's very, very capable of taking his game to another level and being a disruptive force, And when they did disrupt, there was some of that at Michigan. They did very, very disciplined in gaps that they hit, and you did not stray from that gap. And they were really good at it. And he did that. I think the coaching staff likes that. You don't want a guy that, quote, freelances. You don't want him. Oh, I know I'm supposed to stay in this gap between the center and the guard, but I know they're running a sweep over there, and I know they're going to run off tackle over there, so I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to try to make a play for me. I'm going to penetrate on the backside and try to throw it for a loss. Well, all of a sudden you get cut off, you're out of your gap, cut back, touchdown from 45 yards out or something. And that is one thing that defensively the Cincinnati Bengals have to do better this year than last year is explosives, and it was both passing game and running game. So having athletic but yet still disciplined but athletic defensive linemen up front, it's going to help that big time.
Dave Dolores, I think, is flirting with you. She wants to know, she thinks you lost weight.
She thinks I did?
Yeah.
I have trimmed down a little bit, Dolores. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I have. There's a lot of tonnage there to drop, and I've dropped some. Yep. Thank you, Dolores. I appreciate that.
Robert has, he's basically in agreement with all Bengals fans. One, the fact you're coming up on 50 years as a Bengal.
Yeah, just finished number 48, 10 as a player, 38 in the booth, 39 coming up. So 49th year coming up this season.
A lot of people wanting you in that Ring of Honor.
I appreciate that. Everybody's very kind. That would be a super humbling honor, to say the least. But I can tell you that there are so many guys, so many guys that belong in that Ring of Honor. There's a lot of catching up to do, man. Had a lot of great players in the over half a century of play here with the Cincinnati Bengals, and there's so many of them, a big number of them, that deserve the distinction of being in the Ring of Honor. There's no question.
Natty Ron says, could this O-line be like the 88 Bengals line?
I think we feel like the 81 offensive line that went to the Super Bowl, the 88 offensive line that went to the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl offensive line in Super Bowl 54 was an interesting one. I mean, that one probably was the biggest overachiever of the offensive lines. But we felt like in 81, with the Mexican connection with Max Montoya and Anthony Munoz, we felt like, man, we had a good offensive line. And the numbers prove that. 88 offensive line. Again, common denominator, common theme. And both of those Super Bowl offensive lines, the Mexican connection, Anthony Munoz, Max Montoya, different surrounding supporting casts with those guys. But those two blocks of granite. And again, this group has had some success. They've won every player on that offensive line has won a Super Bowl with other teams. Obviously, the Bengals haven't won one yet. They've been to 3. So four out of your starting 5, potentially 4 out of your 5 starters in the offensive line have not only gone but won a Super Bowl. Yeah, if this group plays together, and I think that's what separated the 81 and 88 offensive lines. The other common denominator, not only the Mexican connection, the M&M, but the other M, Jim McNally, the 3 M's, Munoz, Montoya. Jim McNally was the offensive line coach for both of those offensive lines in 81 and 88. And so we're talking about continuity and consistency. You have 2 great players there for 8 years, 81 to 88. That's 7 math, but it's 8 years. And coached by the same offensive line coach. Now you've got some guys that, okay, you brought in a lot of talent. Frank Pollock's been here for a while. I think this is his 5th year with the Bengals now, and he's coached some of these guys up front for obviously more than a year. So it's starting to come together. And what you need is time on task, man. You need to have reps. You need to know, okay, I know exactly out of this defensive front, this look, if the defensive end crashes and my guy loops, I know what my right tackle does from a technique standpoint. I know how he's going to pass them off to me. And I know what I have to do to be able to handle this stunt and handle this twist. We have to be on the same plane. I can't be short set. He's the deeper set guy, or he's a short set guy. I got to set short. Whatever protections might dictate that. When protections don't, you have to be on the same page or communicate. So there's spoken word, unspoken word, and all that comes with practice, man, rep after rep after rep, time on task. So we'll see. I think this group, does it have the potential to be that kind of group? Hell, yes, it does.
Talking to Bengals coaches, recently Homer Rice passed away, Dave.
Yes.
Was one of your head coaches during your time as a player.
Yep. And Homer Rice was cutting edge offensively. I mean, Homer Rice, his big came on the scene, burst on the scene. Greg Cook at UC. He coached Greg Cook. And Greg Cook was a marvelous talent. And Homer Rice had a very, very, very creative mind for offensive football. And that, you talk about a 1 + 1 = 3 synergistic deal there. Those two really, really performed at UC. And Paul Brown took notice of that. And Homer Rice was, that to me was the thing that separated Homer Rice from most, is he was always trying to figure out a different and better way to do things offensively. He was very, very creative from an offensive perspective and cutting edge type guy.
QC Visuals. This kid Newton out of TCU's got some grit, Lap.
That's a good word for it. He does. I mean, the coaches are very, 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 very high on him. They feel like he was the fifth round pick, 149th pick in the draft. The Bengals had him rated no lower than late 3rd round, and they were able to get him in the 5th. That's pretty impressive. But he's got instincts. He's competitive as heck. He's very, very physical. When he tackles people, he tries to hurt them when he takes them to the ground. Very high character guy, very intelligent player. Can lined up in a lot of different ways for TCU. Gets his hands on a lot of footballs over a 2-year stretch at TCU. The last 2 years, got his hands on 20 balls, 20 pass breakups. I mean, that's a significant number. There's no question about it. your word grit is very, very apropos. And the coaches are very excited to see him out in the football field when shoulder pads and helmets come on at training camp, because that's when guys like him, they start to shine a little bit. They start to show themselves.
Dave, we're going to kind of get out of here. We get ready for our interview with Frank Pollock. That'll be on next Thursday. But we're going to finish with Dan the Man here. And he wants you to kind of do a little, he's doing a little projection here, Dave. He says, Lap, we start the year with New England, Kansas City, Washington, Carolina, Baltimore, and the New York Giants. We have got to start off 5-1, don't we?
I'm telling you, that is that is the goal. There's no doubt about that, Dan the Man. I mean, that is the goal. When you look at it, starting off, 1-3, 2-4, 2-5, whatever the case may be, the last few seasons, and some of it, division losses to boot. You'd be 0-2 in the division with a 2-4 record to start. I mean, you're crawling out of a hole. Like you said, New England, Kansas City, going to Kansas City, that'll be the battle. That in the first 6 games, that will be the one where the Bengals will be probably tested the most. But that's not to say, hell, this is the National Football League. And all 6 of those opponents are in the National Football League for a reason, and many reasons, really. But the Cincinnati Bengals, if they want to get to where they think they should be, they're going to have to start well. 5-1, 4-2, worst case scenario would be awesome in those first 6 football games. There's no doubt.
All right, Dave, this is the time. We've been live a little over 52 minutes. Final thoughts on the live stream before we get off here and get you out of here today a little bit later after a couple interviews. And it's that time, Dave. It's that time. I'm getting. It's hard to believe it. We're late June, but it almost feels like before we know it, training camp will be here because it's like a month, a little over a month, just over a month.
Yeah, close to 5 weeks away, a little over a month away. And this is an important time of the year. That's why we wanted to do this live stream when the mandatory minicamp ends. Now they get a lot of free time, and this is a time where teams kind of lose their compass a little bit, and the teams that are successful stay right on course with their compass, and that's what Cincinnati Bengals, in my mind, are going to do. I think this football team, from what I saw down there during OTAs and minicamp, is extremely focused on getting the job done. And I don't think you're going to see anybody stray in this month plus of time on their own. I think the coaches are going to communicate with them frequently. I think they're going to communicate with not only their coaches, they're going to communicate with teammates. I think in some cases, guys are going to be working out together. I think that this football team is going to come back ready to go physically when training camp starts. And by collective bargaining agreement, you wean into it, go for a couple of weeks without shoulder pads, and then start to get after it a little bit. I'm excited. I think everybody around the league feels like this roster is probably top 5 in the National Football League in a lot of people's opinions. I don't think you'd fall lower than top 7, top 10, worst case scenario in people's opinions. So now it's time to football gods, let this football team stay healthy and let the chips fall where they may.
Again, we appreciate everybody taking part in today's live stream with Dave Lapham on In the Trenches and also the First Star Media Group channel on YouTube. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you've not already. And stay tuned because we're going to have some great interviews coming up, as we said. Lou Anarumo next on Tuesday, and Frank Pollock will be out on that Thursday.
Yes.
And Dave's going to get some R&R.
Yeah. Head out of town for a little bit. It'll be fun. Although, man, it's as warm here as it is anywhere, Dave. It's crazy.
I know.
Those temperatures are nuts, man.
My one granddaughter's birthday is coming up here, and she called me and she wanted to go camping. And I'm like, oh, honey, do you realize how hot it is outside?
There better be a lake, Dave. Better be a lake.
Yeah, right on the lake. That's where she wants to go. So again, we thank everybody. We thank First Star Logistics for everything they do for us on In the Trenches and the First Star Media Group. And until next time, Dave, I'll let you say it.
Hooday, baby. Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.